I mean, it's very well known that she had this QAnon past and all that. And less well known is that just after she sort of quietly disavowed QAnon at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, she began to show up on Capitol Hill as a Facebook influencer, but also trying to meet with Republican senators to lobby them against things like gun safety legislation. And she couldn't get an audience with any of them. And she was going to like harass Democrats, but also to try to persuade Republican electeds. And it was an utter failure. No one would let her in the door. And it really pissed her off, and she began to tell people that screw it, I'm a taxpayer and they won't listen to me. I'm going to run. And so when she ran she was self-funded because she's a millionaire. She and her husband own a construction business, and she had a lot of money to throw around. A lot of Republican consultants then were eager to take her money, but she wouldn't listen to them, and they either quit or she would fire them, and she really worked her ass off, and it was during the time of COVID, and so no one was campaigning. It's because of social distancing protocols. Of course, she didn't pay attention to that because she didn't believe in COVID, basically, and so she would go to these very conservative, in this very conservative district that she moved to, and went door to door and found that these were her people, and when I asked her, why didn't you take down all that QAnon stuff? Why didn't you scrub your social media stuff? She said, I didn't think it would hurt me. In fact, I wondered if it might help me. And so she saw that, the underlying tenets of QAnon, which is President Trump is the greatest president of our lifetime, the Democrats are incorrigibly evil, that they and the deep state and the media are all in cahoots to chip away bit by bit at everything we hold dear, to rob us of America, a kind of narrative that set the stage metaphorically for the 2020 election theft that never was, but it spoke to this sense of forfeiture that these constituents had, and Greene began to realize that. I mean, the QAnon thing, as she told me, was something that lots of affluent people, lots of successful people glommed onto. But basically, even if you didn't think that there was a pedophile ring in the government, you still did believe that the arch liberal media, that the socialist Democrats and the deep state were capable of anything and everything.
Right. This just what springs to mind is Phyllis Schlafly.
Yeah.
In other words, that what you see here is a Republican Party in the 20th century at least, the does contain these extraordinary firebrands, often women actually.
Yeah. Jenny Thomas.
Absolutely, but they also do the work.
Yeah.
They actually bloody do the work. Yeah. And Schlafly was testifying on the Hill, but Schlafly never got elected to Congress, of course. But there is that zeal. Now, what about her people?
Yeah.
Do we not? What surprised you most about her people?
Well, what surprised me the most about her people, and by her people, I'm not limiting it to the 14th district of Georgia, because what I came to learn, and that's when I really began to take her seriously, someone who needed to be taken seriously, was to realize she had a national following. You go to her office, both outside and inside the office, the walls are festooned with letters, and I mean hundreds and hundreds of letters. And if you read them, they're from all over the U.S. They're not from her district, and they're all people. You are our fighter, you are our warrior, you're the one thing keeping us, from socialism. And so one thing that you learn, about her people, and a more problematic subset of that group, or the people who came to Washington on January the 6th, is that they are frequently non-college educated, white working class, who believe that America as they know it has been taken from them. They believe that at absolute minimum, the mainstream media and all elected officials, political professionals, are heedless to them, dismissive of them, and maybe contemptuous of them as well.
But let's just take that.
Yeah.
They're not completely wrong, are
Yeah.
they?
Right.
The thing about this is there are elements of it that are both true and understandable.
For sure.
And then they're just laced in with these things that are completely insane.
Yeah, the notion that, for example, the manufacturing base, has gone through the floorboards in America, and that so many Americans, the sort of educated Americans, would be of the view of, well, you're just going to have to switch over to information technology and green energy. You're just going to have to engage in worker retraining. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's such a slap in the face to those people, and it is again, at minimum, dismissive. And I think I'm defensive towards a lot of members of the media whom I know and who I think try to get things right, but they're as susceptible as any human being to being caught in a bubble.